Sam was very excited as he packed his suitcase. His mother informed him that she was taking him on a surprise spring break trip, leaving in the morning, and he should make sure to pack his swim trunks. This was a shock to him because Sam's mother was a single parent and there never seemed to be enough money to do anything extra. The next morning, they got an Uber to the airport. Sam still didn't know where he was going, but anywhere outside of Nebraska in March had to be better. When they made it to their gate, Sam looked up at the board and saw that the plane was landing in Phoenix, Arizona. "All right, I can work with this," he said to himself. He flashed his mother a big smile, sat down in one of the chairs at the gate, and waited for their section to be called. Sam and his mom exited the plane after landing in Phoenix. "What kind of car did you rent, Mom?" Sam asked, knowing it couldn't be anything as cool as a convertible, but still hoping. "We don't need a car, Sam. Grandma and Grandpa are picking us up." Sam came to a sudden stop. "What?" "I said Grandma and Grandpa are picking us up." "I heard that. The question is, why didn't you share that little piece of the plan with me?" Sam asked with a hint of anger in his voice. "You didn't ask. Besides, it's been over 2 years since you've seen them. They were kind enough to pay for our tickets to come here, so you need to be grateful and behave." She turned her back and started to walk away. Sam quickly caught up with her. "We're staying with them, Mom. Are you kidding me? Did you forget how miserable Grandpa made me the last time they visited us?" Mom stopped again and looked at Sam. "No, I didn't forget. But you've matured now. And I had a little chat with my father and told him to give you some space. It'll all be good, I promise." Mom grabbed Sam's arm and gently tugged him along. Sam decided that maybe she was right. It had to be better than staying back in cold Nebraska, right? When they reached his grandparents' trailer located in an over 65 community, he thought this situation couldn't get much worse when he found out that he would be sleeping on the pull-out couch. No privacy. So he placed his suitcase in his mother's room and went outside to sit in one of the lawn chairs. And as he watched the elderly residents walk by, he started to wonder how he could possibly spin this to look better than it was. Everybody, or at least all the cool kids he knew, including the guy he had a crush on, Todd, went to Mexico or some other fancy resort for their spring breaks. How could he possibly impress Todd with a story about watching his gramps play horseshoes? His family decided to go on a walk to show off all the exciting things they had available to them. When Sam caught sight of the pool, he let out a sigh of relief because at the very least he could work on getting a tan and then make up a story about where he went. Possibly. It didn't take long to once again be let down. He was the first to see the sign that informed the residents that any guests under the age of 65 would only be allowed to swim from the hours of noon to 2 in the afternoon. This could not get any worse, Sam muttered under his breath. This was followed by a sharp elbow into his stomach by his mother. "Behave," she whispered back to him. After 4 days of swimming for 2 hours only, watching horseshoes and reminding his Gramps once again that he did not want to be taught how to play, and endless games of cribbage, Sam was starting to get excited about going home in 2 days. He was excited about seeing Todd again and hoped that they might decide to go see a movie or something fun. His tan was starting to come along and things were starting to look up. As he got ready for bed, Sam looked into the mirror to admire his tan. That's when he saw it. Right above his right eyebrow. A zit. Oh, crud. Why couldn't this have happened 4 days ago? He asked himself. Acne was something every 14-year-old struggled with from time to time, which is why he threw his zit cream into his bag when he packed for this trip. Thank goodness I thought to bring this, he said to himself as he dabbed the cream on the red spot. The next morning it was looking a little angrier, which wasn't abnormal. The thing was, after using the cream, his acne typically looked better 12 hours later. Not worse. But he had been using an unusual amount of sunscreen this week. Maybe that was the difference. So with a shrug, he quickly reapplied more acne medication and decided to stay out of the sun so that he didn't have to use the sunscreen. He would rather forego a tan than come back looking like a toad. That night, he went into the bathroom to get another look. When he turned on the light, he jumped back to see a large spider scurry out of the sink. He quickly whacked it with the hand towel hanging beside the sink. He didn't know how his grandparents could live like this. It was probably the 12th spider he had killed that week. When he looked into the mirror, he got the second shock of that moment when he saw the zit above his eyebrow was now huge. Geez, at this rate, the zit will be given its own zip code. Sam quickly picked up the acne cream to look to see if maybe it had passed an expiration date or anything that could explain why it wasn't working like it usually did. Nothing was found to explain this dire situation, so Sam did the only thing he thought to do. He washed his face and reapplied. Hopefully, it would look better in the morning. They were headed home tomorrow, and he was headed back to school the day after that. Unfortunately, the next morning it didn't bring the news he was hoping for. Not only was the zit even bigger than the night before, it now had a huge white bubble. Is this what other teens deal with? He thought. At this rate, he would have to call in sick to school on Monday, which meant that Todd wouldn't see his awesome tan, nor would he see Todd. This has to go down soon, right? He asked himself while looking in the mirror. Sam did the only thing he could think of, and that was to cover the zit with a Band-Aid. Nobody had to know, right? He was hoping that by the time they got home tonight, things would be back to normal. He grabbed his bag and they headed to the airport. Many hours later, Sam and his mother were back at home. Sam began to unpack his suitcase when he suddenly remembered the situation that was above his eye. He quickly ran to the bathroom, peeled back the Band-Aid, and this could not be happening. The zit had grown to be about twice the size it had been that morning. If he wasn't mistaken, it was almost the size of the golf balls his Gramps so dearly loved. He poked, he prodded, he squeezed. Nothing happened. Until, wait, what is that? Something black, long and black, was protruding from the middle of this red and white hill the size of Mount Rushmore. He started to pull at this black thing sticking out. He pulled at it with a little more force, and it came out. As he started to inspect this black thing, he realized that it looked a lot like something he had seen at his grandparents' place. Sam quickly lifted his head to look in the mirror. He got closer and closer. Was it his imagination? Or was the zit moving? Yes, it was definitely moving. His nose was about 3 inches away from the mirror as he looked in horror. Suddenly, there was a pop. The last thing Sam saw before passing out was hundreds of baby spiders crawling out of his zit, covering his entire face.